This afternoon I have Mr. David Dean with me, who's also going to discuss with you about the insurance. Let me give you a little background. So many years ago, the Olympic Association was trying to find a plan available to our national federations for athletes and officials. The purpose of this plan was to assist athletes who sustain injuries whilst in competition or whilst in training. Now, it's not really, it's called a personal accident insurance and not, because they know that the issue is that many of you or many individuals believe or are of the view they already have medical insurance. That is true. But this is a policy specific for sports injuries. Injuries that might be sustained as whilst you're training here in Barbados or once you're playing or in competition in Barbados, and if you're training overseas or in competition overseas. So the plan works here locally, it works where you might compete wherever you are overseas. Yeah? No, this took a long time for us to put this plan in place. A long, long time. And I must admit, initially they gave up at some point because we didn't get the feedback or the buy-in by National Federation. But gradually we reached a point where I think we are finding some federations or mostly federations on board, but they could always do better. We always feel that more if we can get to speak to all of you like we are doing now this evening, that we can convince the national federation that it is important to have this coverage because the reason why we thought of putting it in place is because the national federation who didn't have insurance had a claim of $60,000 from an athlete. They couldn't burden when they discovered, look, this is something that's going to cost their federation because the person decided to take action against the association. This can be avoided by having this coverage. Because by having it, it means you safeguard against have a claim that will be put against the national federation who really don't have the funds in which to beat these things. Because I heard the gentleman tonight, this afternoon, mention the fact that he needed additional funds to do certain things. So think of a situation where an athlete gets injured, $20,000, $30,000 of claim, and the federation doesn't even have $10,000 to run its national affairs. How the hell can it have money to cover a claim when it has that type of injuries? So this policy, this person asset policy, is specifically for that purpose, to cover you for injuries whilst in competition. If you leave home to the venue, when you leave the venue, back home, all that is encompassed in terms of the plan is covered. But I'll ask Mr. Dean to talk to you about it, and David Dean is we work with Sagicor, and then Empirical Brokers, and I'll ask Mr. Dean to go into more details with you for David.
Good evening, all, and thanks for inviting me. Erskine has covered 3/4 of the plan, so I only have a quarter left. As he said, it's an accident plan, so it doesn't cover everything. It covers you while you're involved in the sport, either in competition or when you are training and practicing for your particular sport. There are 6 basic benefits that are provided under the plan. Death, God forbid somebody should die as a result of competition or while training for competition. Total permanent disablement, if you're disabled and you cannot get back to your normal or your usual occupation, that is also covered. There are provisions for temporary disablement and permanent disablement as well. So if I go through them, I'll go through them one by one. Death carries a limit of $50,000. So if during the course of your competing, or as Erskine said, on the way to or from the competition, to training, or on the way to training or from training, and you are unfortunately killed as a result of participating in that sport, $50,000 is paid to your beneficiary or to your estate, whichever. The second benefit is loss of sight, loss of hearing, or loss of limbs. Sounds like an insurance plan is in trouble. Those 3 also carry the $50,000 benefit. So if you should lose one arm or both arms, if you should lose an eye in competition, $50,000 is the limit. And the total permanent disablement, which means that you unfortunately cannot go back to any form of activity or occupation, that is also a lump sum of $50,000 that's paid to you. Sorry?
Digits? You said arms, specifically said arms.
Yes.
Digits.
Digits as well. Loss of toes, loss of fingers. They all have, they are calculated on a percentage of the sum, of the total sum. So for, I don't have the exact table here with me. Maybe I do. Yeah, I do. So that for the loss of a right thumb, if you are a right-hander, 25% of the $50,000 or $12,500 would be paid for that. Loss of a middle finger, all three phalanges, 10% if you are right-handed, 8% if you are, if you lose your right thumb and you are right, your right middle finger, sorry, and you are a right-hander, you lose 10%, or you are paid 10%, sorry. And if you have, you are a right-hander, but you lose your left middle finger, 8% of the total sum assured of 50,000 is payable. So each limb or part thereof is also covered by a percentage of your loss of hearing in both ears, 50%, which would be $25,000, or loss of hearing in one ear would be 20,000, would be 20% of the $50,000.
There's a little ironic thing in that. In unique to archery, if you're a right-hander, it's your left hand at risk.
Oh, okay.
Well, you straight out your right hand. So I won't break it when you're left hand at your right hand.
And if you lose your 3 digits on the wrong hand.
Correct. That's some
Yeah, but I think it's an interesting point. I suppose the point is that if you are right-handed, in terms of your usual occupation and so on, that's basically what the...
It's not even your right hand at risk.
Yeah.
One thing is, in archery, if you're right hand, you pulling string with your right hand, your left hand that's at risk. So yeah, I won't break it.
Yeah, but it's not the same as the loss of Yeah, basically
still use it
you're
right
covering your day-to-day outside of the sport.
So those are that's for total permanent disablement. Then there is temporary disablement, temporary total and temporary partial. Temporary total is where for a period of weeks, and I think they give up to 78 weeks in the first instance, a year and a half. If you are permanently disabled, you get a stipend, basically of $385 a week to assist you. It is not, it could be more, it should be more, but it is just to allow you to continue to, if you have to get a taxi to take you to the doctor, or you have to bring in some home help for a couple of days of the week or not. $385 per week for total temporary disablement, and temporary partial disablement, $250 a week. So it's roughly $1,000 a month to help you along the way. And then the sixth coverage, or basic coverage, is for medical expenses, medical, surgical, and hospital expenses, in two categories, for Barbados and for any other territory outside of Europe. It's $25,000 for the medical expenses. So that if you, God forbid, you had a broken foot, it will cover you for repair, surgical costs, anesthetic, operating room, and so on, up to $25,000 accident. There's a deductible, so everything is not covered under an insurance policy because we have to get to the fine print, as you know. And there's a deductible of $250 per claim, so that in the event where you have such a claim that goes beyond $25,000, the policy will pay maximum of $25,000 less your $250 deductible. $24,750 is what would be paid. Now I know your sport is not a contact sport, from what I gather, so you're not likely to be as exposed to injury as, say, a footballer or a basketballer or so on. But there are, I imagine, certain circumstances where you may still get injured. Yes.
There are plenty of things, but lengthened, I think about equipment failure can injure you seriously in archery.
Mm-hmm.
It was I could work an arm, could whatever, so it's still a certain amount of risk.
There is some risk, yes. I think one of the athletes we had on our skin who was overseas, and she was going to play in her particular sport, coming down the stairs, tripped and fell and injured herself, and that was covered. She was on her way to competition and so on. So there are exposures that are there that should be thought about when you are considering joining the program. There are some exclusions, and I'm sure you would want me to refer to them. Intentional self-injury is one. That's an exclusion. Well, you guys are not involved in mountaineering and playing polo and so on. But if you're under the influence of drugs and alcohol, that is an exclusion, provided, of course, the doctor tells us that you were under the influence of drugs and alcohol. So if you injure yourself, yes, well, I don't imagine any of you would participate in drink at all. Self-injury, as I said, and suicide. Pre-existing physical or mental illnesses. Pre-existing is one that if you have had an injury and you have recovered fully from it, that is not a pre-existing injury. That's not a pre-existing condition. But what we want is when you're completing the form, fill in and say, look, I've had such and such. The insurance company will look at it and they will decide whether to cover you or not. And it is better for them to know up front rather than something happen to you and afterwards somebody says, oh, but he was involved in such and such and had that problem for the last 3 or 4 years, and therefore that is an exclusion.
So that would also include the para-athletes, the people in wheelchairs, and that's a pre-existing
question.
We have been asked to cover paras, yes. And the insurance company has taken the view that once they know what the disability is, they will cover them for other disabilities or being injured as a result of something else that does not directly affect that particular disability. So if you have a disability, it doesn't mean that you can't get insurance, but the insurance company will decide. I've seen in some cases where they have said, get a full medical report, let us know what it is, and then they will underwrite accordingly.
Yeah, it was mentioned earlier that in case of loss, there's total or partial temporary dismemberment or disability.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you know that you receive a monthly stipend or monthly support in that way.
Right.
That's until the $50,000 is exhausted.
No, there are two separate things. For the temporary, let me just get it there. Yeah. But
Because the length of time wasn't the same.
right.
18 months, 78.
The temporary partial is 26 weeks. That's half a year. But the temporary total is 78 weeks, which is a year and a half.
Can I get this insurance if I already have insurance?
Yes, this is over and above. What we found is that there are some people who have health insurance policies, and they have made a claim under that health insurance policy first. But every health insurance policy carries a copay and a deductible.
No, what I mean is, what I like about this is that I don't have to be at my range. The insurance I have right now is only for when I am on the grounds of my range.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, two are from home and not covered.
Right.
And if I go overseas to shoot or go at another club and shoot, I'm not covered. It's
Right.
only when I'm at my home range.
Yeah, no, this covers you while you are traveling, while you are away.
Right, so, no, my question is that if I get injured during the sport, you would say, well, you already covered that other insurance. You don't, you're not ready.
No. What there are a couple of things. One is the first three I mentioned: death, loss of limbs, total permanent. That is separate and distinct from any insurance you have. The only where it doubles up is on medical. So if you have a medical insurance plan and you go to the doctor and you are charged whatever, $5,000 to fix whatever, you can't go to your other insurance company and collect $5 and come here and collect $5. What you can do is if that policy has a copay of 20%, which is normal in most health insurance products here, 20% of the $5,000 is $1,000. You can come and claim under this for the $1,000, less the $250 deductible, which I mentioned. So a number of people have, in fact, done that. They have claimed under their normal health insurance policy, which they have, and then they've said, well, I'll come here for the copay. Or you can go the other way. You can come here and say, look, I'm going to claim under this particular policy. And you can let them know that you have, you let us know that you have coverage with Guardian or somebody else. And the two insurance companies will talk and will work out what is the contribution from one or the other. Yes, sir. So I didn't
Anyone just athletes, but officials as well.
Yeah, no, officials as well, athletes and officials, coaches, medical personnel who may be traveling with the team, and so on, managers. Or if you are here as an assistant, so competition is going on and you are assisting with the competition, but you're not actually taking part, you will also be covered. For example, take like cycling, you know, or even athletics, marathons, and so on. You'll see people on the road handing out water and sponges and whatever. Those can also be covered as well. So what you are required to do is to complete a proposal form. It's a very simple, short form, giving the basic details, name, address, and so on. And then that comes into the BOA. And for all of that coverage that we spoke about, the premium this year was $50 per annum. Works out to be about $4.12 or whatever per month. So it's cheaper than a drumstick at Chefette. So I think for that sort of expense, it is very, very much worth it. And we've seen over the plan has been in place now since 2017, so maybe we're going into the fifth year now. Yeah, in January. Yeah, we'll be going into the fifth year. And we've seen people across several disciplines, not only football and athletics and so on, but all squash, all sectors of the sporting fraternity have benefited from claims that have been made. And I think we should also say, Erskine, that the BOA has put together a team of preferred providers who have been giving discounts or who have agreed to give a discount for medical treatment, for physiotherapy and so on. And those are also, that is also a benefit under the plan. Yes, ma'am.
Somebody asked me before about the reporting procedure. Are there time limits under which people have to be examined by a doctor? Are there, is there a specific form? How does it have to be filled out? Again, time limits for...
Yes, there is a claim form which all of the federations will have, so that if somebody gets injured, they should fill out the form as quickly as possible, because in most instances with accident, you're going to one of the clinics or the hospitals, QEH, Bayview, Premier, whichever. So you need to advise us as soon as possible. But there is a maximum period of 90 days within which you can make a claim. So within that period of time, you should make your claim. But it's important, very early to say, we've been involved in, one of our members has been involved in an incident. They went to wherever there's going to be an operation, or he's going to, or she's going to have to get physiotherapy. Let us have that information. It goes straight into the company. They record it, and then when the final bills and so on come, that's the other thing. We've asked athletes and coaches and so on to pay upfront and then recover, bring your receipts and so on. Now, we have come across some cases of hardship where, I don't mean to be derogatory to any sport, but where somebody may be unable to make the first payment at Bayview, for example, $3,000 or whatever it is. The insurance company has said in cases where there is hardship, let Bayview communicate with them, and they will make the arrangements, whether it is payment up front or whether it is we give our word to pay at the end of the procedure, so that you don't have to be waiting around to try to muster up $3,000 to pay before you get the treatment that you need.
So you notify the association when you get injured, then they notify the insurance or you go direct. It should be through the association.
Should be through the association, yes. If you can't get on to Paula Jarvis, you want to communicate with us at Empirical, we will communicate with Paula. But normally you should go straight to go through the BOA, who will then communicate to the insurance.
I think
You are asking for whether it's they communicate or how you have, or you go straight to the BOA.
no, you should go through the National Federation.
Right.
But before, I think it's important though. I think David mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cadre of professionals that we're working with, and the reason for that is to try and keep the expenses reasonable on customer, so that we don't have a situation where you go to someone else where the cost might be $30,000, but our cadre of professionals we do it for 20. That's where we're keeping the cost down.
Right.
The claims experience, the claims strategy, the claims against the premium income is important. That way, that's why it's so important. Make sure we have more and more people involved in the plan, so we can keep the premium where we want to keep it at, as opposed to having a situation where the claims are so high that then the premium becomes out of touch with everyone else, and then it has to go up. So that's why it's important that whenever you're discussing these claims, we need to know first and to advise you that you should go to the category of individuals we earmarked. And we share that with all the national federations, doctors, physios, massage therapists, chiropractors, all the clinics that we work with, they have a discount of all the procedures, so it's important we do that.
I have a scenario that I would like to ask you about.
Sure.
I have an athlete and we go overseas on a tournament. Happens to have a full illness and goes to emergency. I have my medical insurance already, plus I took travel insurance. And where we went, nobody accepted that without prior knowledge. They wouldn't accept my credit card because we medical insurance before that affect the credit card. You don't speak language, and you need to get hold of somebody at 2 a.m. in the morning, because this is what happened, what do I do then what has happened? So I get a hospital bill for $8,000 per night.
Yeah, I guess what you're getting to is whether we have a card that can be taken and so on. We don't have that card at the moment. There is a certificate which you take with you, and most places that overseas that we have been advised of have accepted the certificate. They will call back. Granted, it may be not for next morning, but they will call back and ask us. And most have taken it. Now, obviously, there are some, and if you maybe Central or Latin America or wherever, and you are in difficulty.
And I have 3 insurances.
Wow. Yeah. What we're trying to get this card that you will be able to take and present that, just as you have your normal card. But I'm surprised that none would have worked.
Yeah. I was surprised too.
Yeah. But yeah, as soon as we can get that card, we will obviously make it available to the members. But that has been a challenge because the cards are not cheap, and with a premium at the level of $50, you can understand that it has been a bit of a challenge to do that. But we are working towards that.
I think in a situation like what Carlos is talking about there, I don't know about anybody else, but I would like to have a number that goes directly to somebody that can say, do it, we're legit. Because that's the biggest problem that most of us who travel for competitions get. One of the phrases I've heard is, that's not real. You know, Barbados is not a real place. Oh yeah? Seriously? That kind of thing. But when your life and your health is in the balance, you really want to be able to say to them, look, call this number and have, you know,
somebody
the
else
rapper dog come down and go, right, we're legit, can move on.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it has happened here where people have gone to the doctor here or have gone to one of the clinics, and the clinic say, well, the price is going to be X, and the fellow says, well, I can't pay, who do I call? And they have been able to call either the BOA or through to the insurance company to indicate, and they will give an undertaking. Now, overseas is going to be a little bit more challenging, so we are working on that, trying to get a card with a number and a facility that you will be able to use while you're overseas, but it hasn't come yet.
But my experience in Latin America and stuff like that is they don't have any English-speaking insurance companies. That's what I got from go here. Or your company totally didn't need something that they
They'll have their unique situation. There's not.
What I would like to suggest is that when you travel for tournaments, to have the federation look into that and at least have some prior knowledge of what to do.
Right.
I mean, it's
Like,
based on my experience, and Martha is from what we did, if as soon as you were chosen for the team, there was paperwork that you had to do, you were on file, because you were part of X going this country to that, so,
You mean our games, tour games?
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's
Sort of
normal,
things.
that's normal, because each games has, takes an insurance policy of all the officials, all the athletes. That's part of the post contract.
Yeah. What I'm thinking maybe for a federation that's traveling to pre-qualifiers for those things, that, our federation notifies that X group traveling to this location, to this, kind of thing. If there's a way to not pre-set up a contact at that point, but give enough advance notification of where we're going, that Saginaw might have
Yes.
logistical partnerships
Yeah.
that can say, all right, if you get in trouble there, this is the girl to call because they have contact with us and everything.
What happens now when you go to a tournament let's say a tournament, an archery tournament, let's say, a continental tournament, or what normally happens now?
Well, we've been extremely lucky that we haven't had an issue.
No. What happens when you go to a continental tournament, or any tournament that's being hosted where other countries are taking part, coming to the same location? What is the practice normally for that organization? For hosting such an event?
Well, they will provide a certain medical attention if anything happens, but.
And it's more along the lines of public liability on the whole.
Yeah, it depends on the intent of what has happened. They may cover like an initial visit and consultation, doesn't mean that they'll cover the cost of any procedure.
Okay.
It is very reassuring to have a 100 number or some number where we can call you. So that you will get the headache of getting us taken care of. In even cases, like, I'm just being very straightforward. In some cases, even when things are illegal, I get trip up. Because, for example, I got an international driver's license in Barbados. On the international driver's license, it says recognized in the country US, USA. I got pulled over in Texas, and the police asked me, oh, what's that? And I'm saying, read it, it's an international driver's license, and they have their Texas. No, I give you 7 days to go and get a Texas driver's license, or you got this again. Oh man, this is it. Second thing is, I'm flying, I land in South America, going to buy fuel to fuel the airplane with my credit card. Rejected. No reason, rejected. Thank God they have a little 1-800 number on the back of the credit card. I called, and the credit card company called those people and said, fuel the mass plane. Right? So I would be very comfortable if I could call you in the middle of the night and say, I went back to the hospital and when you said, we don't recognize this at the card.
Right.
Here, talking about it.
Yeah. Once they will accept my broken Spanish, but it's a fair point, yes, and it's something that we definitely have to work on, because you don't want to be, that's the worst thing in the world, to be looking for medical attention and nobody's taking you on. But it doesn't only relate to South America, North America can be just as bad. So it's a good point. Yeah. Okay, are there any other questions that you would like to have answered? Sorry?
How much is this policy a year? Or did you say?
It's $50 per annum per individual.
I only have 2 more forms left, but I can send it to you by email. So get back to me.
Thank you.
Looking forward to you joining, because as I said, this took a while to conceptualize. It is, our mind, we believe as an excellent product. We also have a rate for those who play more than one sport. So anyone who plays more than one sport would pay $100, but pay a prorated fee. And those who play 3 sports will also have a prorated fee. And the idea for that is, if you were playing archery and then you were playing, say, football, you will have to be registered in both, not just one, because we need to ascertain which injury caused the which you would be playing against. You won't play against archery if you're playing football. It won't be fair to archery. But if you had an interest to stay in football, well, that's where you would make your play. Yeah? And vice versa. So the whole idea is to try and get as many people in the product, get insured so that we can keep the coverage to the premiums sustained and try and keep the plan running for all the national federations of the NSP. But we've been doing a number of discussions with national federations. Some have joined very, very well. Others have just been struggling to get them to I'm not saying this is the case with you, but we thought we should come and discuss it with you. But we look forward to you joining and making sure part of your plan. We really look forward to having all part of it. It's for officials, it's for athletes. It starts from age 3 to age 17. Okay? Okay, thanks everyone. Happy holidays, everybody. All the best, everyone.
I was hoping I could get you to stay and present
Oh.
trophies for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we're gonna run straight into the presentation of trophies for nationals. And I'm gonna ask Erskine to present. I have the list here somewhere.
Yeah.
To start with compound male master.
Yeah.
Second place went to John and Elle. John, he was there a minute ago. Yeah. Okay, let's see. On to Gregory, you'll accept on your son's behalf.
No problem.
So we'll move on to compound male cadet. Won by Christian Hunt. Okay. Compound male senior. Second place was Gregory Hunt. And compound male senior first place was Anthony Phoenix. Anthony is not here, and anybody like to come and accept on his behalf. Gregory for compound. Compound female senior was won by Charlene Goddard. Coach will come and collect on our behalf.
Sir?
Thank you very much.
Okay, recurve male master. Thomas Albert Field.
Thank you.
Recurve male cadet. Third place was Samir Bulbulia. Martha, want to come and collect? So we'll collect for her teammate. And then go to for Martha. Second place was Luke Stanley. And first place, a national champion, recurve male cadet, Samir Ali.
15.
Shot it right here.
Recurve female senior. Third place, Judy McGrath. Mark, you want to come back to Judy?
Yes.
And second place to Martha Padmore. There we go. senior. Persia Menard, once again. Recurve Male Senior, third place was R. James Holger. Who's going to claim R. James? Second place, Ronald Field. National champion, recurve male senior, Brandon Field. Okay, that's it, folks. Thank you very much. One that we haven't presented was the compound male master. Nobody was here. So, that brings all of the official stuff to an end. So now it's time to be social. Have a drink. And thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Like I said, you actually got a copy of the insurance thing in January of this year.
Yes.
I'll send it out again.
You have everything?
Yeah.
Well, sure.
Yeah, on the presentation as well as the form. So I'll send it again. So you all can send it to me before the end of the year, please. Thank you so much.
All right, everyone, take care, huh? Take care. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.